this is Nathalie Boltt. I play Penelope Blossom on the CW's Riverdale, and you're listening to the Movie Raid Show.
It's time for the Movie Raid, and tonight's victim is actress Nathalie Boltt, that played in various film and television such as 24 Hours to Live, Poseidon Adventure Remake, Riverdale, District 9, amongst others. Hello.
Hello.
What are we doing today?
I guess we're talking about Riverdale. It's going really well, and I'd say the worst mother on the planet, Penelope Blossom, to Cheryl Blossom, the hot fiction redhead. And recently my movie was released, 24 Hours to Live, with Ethan Hawke and a couple of fantastic stars. It hit cinemas on Friday. It also stars Liam Cunningham from Game of Thrones and Paul Anderson from Peaky Blinders. So it's going to be a fun watch. It's a real high-octane action thriller that's just released.
So, with the roles that you just stated, I mean, what made you go for these type of roles? Is this something that would actually change the pace for you compared to your other roles in the past, or is this something different?
You know, I think there's only a very, very small percentage of actors who can pick and choose their role. People who say that they've chosen a role to suit their latest needs would be very few and far between, and quite honestly, most of us just audition for things that come our way that we kind of vibe with, and then we are lucky enough to be called back and then cast in those roles. For me, Penelope Blossom was an audition that landed in my lap, and I was given a very interesting reference, Mrs. Danvers from the film Rebecca by Hitchcock. And I thought, oh, that's cool, because usually you don't get a reference, certainly not one like that. And that was thanks to the show creator Roberto Aguirre-Sacasa, who created the Riverdale show from the Archie comics, and also the director Lee Krieger, who I've just been shadowing on his new pilot, Deadly Class. So I worked with those two wonderful people in my audition, and basically they wanted me to be this real otherworldly, strange, cold, very proper, upright kind of matron. And so when I did that audition, they loved that performance. And so for anyone who's seen Riverdale, they have witnessed this sort of creature that came out of that, which is Penelope, who's incredibly hard. She's just such a harsh, cold mother, which I think a lot of people relate to, especially teenagers who are, pushing back against their parents. And it feels like parents just have no logic, and everything they do is to ruin your life. And that's pretty much what I play, which I think is really fun for viewers. And then the woman who plays my daughter, Madeleine Pitch, to rail against. So that would be my reason for playing Penelope like that, but really it was a privilege to get the role, to be quite honest. Yeah, so 24 Hours to Live, I play the doctor who gives Ethan Hawke's character 24 hours to live. So it's kind of got a bit of a sci-fi element to it. He's died, and I kind of bring him back to life, and he has 24 hours to sort out the killers who murdered him. And I tend to get cast in roles that are strong female, kind of more intelligent, I like to think, and more of an authority role. And once again, playing the doctor at 24 Hours to Live was kind of that kind of thing. But with a lot of him kind of trying to also strangle me in the process. I mean, same goes for District 9. I played a sociologist who is an expert on the prawns. And, I was kind of on their side, but had a lot of knowledge about why the situation had developed that made District 9 what it was, which was essentially like a coming together, a sort of apartheid-like battle between humans and aliens, which, represented battle between races, and was quite smart like that. Yeah, so that's the kind of role I tend to play, although, to be honest, I really love comedy, and the movies that I've made myself have tended to be more comedic. So if you want to look up Penelope Blossom being the exact opposite, my film website, rodrigofilms.com/thejazzle, that's spelled VAJAZZLE, ZZLE as you would say, will show you a completely different, outrageous, comedic side of what I like to do in my spare time.
Yeah, and you mentioned a lot of female strong roles that you played as, but there's also risks that come with that. But what are these risks that can you avoid in order to be recognized?
The risks, well, I mean, I think if you mean like playing only harsh roles, that you just get typecast and that kind of like just a hard actress, that would definitely be a risk. I think there's a lot of different ways to play authoritarian female roles, and sometimes the best thing is to play against that as the obvious. I mean, someone who comes to mind is like Robin Wright on House of Cards. And I think the engaging wonder of her beautiful acting is that she's so controlled and graceful, and yet there's this kind of bubbling underneath the surface of what she really plans, and you're always guessing as the audience, what the heck is she up to? And so I think if you play it with way more mystery and a twinkle in your eye and possibly a slight smile at the corner of your mouth, then you're not doing the obvious. So that's what I would say about the risks of playing that role. However, if you mean actually being a strong female in the industry, then I would say, of course, especially in the current environment, the climate in Hollywood with the whole hashtag Me Too change of power that's going on, I think it's volatile, absolutely. It doesn't mean anybody should hold back, any female should hold back. I think the danger is in infighting and we're not actually coming together as a group to go, look, we need to change, there needs to be more balance and more equality. Abuses that have happened to anybody need to come to the fore and be dealt with. But I think, that the danger is that a lockdown happens where people just stop communicating altogether, or they start infighting and finger pointing, and then we all go down with the ship. So for me, this strong female movement that is happening, like any movement, needs to be based on a desire for things to get better.
Yeah, there's also personal gain in the industry. Sometimes it could be an advantage to some, and sometimes it could be a negative effect. Which area in acting do you think this is best used at?
If I understand you correctly, you mean the choices that you make in the roles that you choose?
Yes.
And personally, I think it's a matter of just of showing range, because if you show range, then you show that you actually have acting chops and you're not just playing yourself over and over again. So, I mean, like I said before, most actors aren't able to pick and choose the roles that you audition for. I guess you can only audition for things that you feel show your range. And so if you're lucky enough to be cast then in a variety of roles, then that will show off your range as an actor, which will always give you more options in terms of how your career grows. If you're always playing the stereotype of, the action figure or the harsh woman or the ditzy comedic role, you can just get typecast into a corner. So range is what I would suggest.
Yeah, and you've also played reoccurring characters. When it comes to motivation, do you prefer to use in order to re-enter that character at a later time?
I think it's always helpful, the process of getting into costume and going through hair and makeup. And I mean, it's essentially like the use of masks. When you do theatre training, the mask allows you a lot of freedom to express yourself as something else. And if you've been away and you come back to do your recurring role, I think just getting into the skin of it again and putting yourself behind the mask of your costume and your hair and makeup always helps. And then in my case, I feel that the use of voice is key. So, for instance, Penelope Blossom, not only does she have an American accent, but she has a very kind of cold, smooth way of talking, as if she were a woman who was stuck in the 50s, when it was that sort of social belief that women should speak in a pleasant voice so that they don't annoy their husbands when they come back from a hard day at work type thing, be standing there holding a whiskey in her apron. I kind of use that voice to inform who Penelope Blossom is, because she's the opposite of who I am. I'm a kind of like rock and roll hippie who plays the ukulele and is incredibly messy and sort of dances and stuff. So Penelope is the opposite. She's controlled in every way, and that comes through in the voice that I use. So the voice would be another layer of kind of the mask that you put on as you go into character.
Yeah, in some cases, other actors, like, they would be playing the same character, and then, especially in television, and they have to come back in, let's say, between a week or a couple of days later, and have to re-enter that world of that character. I can imagine it'd be pretty hard to step back into that and try to get back. It's almost like reading a book, and you finish one page, and then you leave it there and come back to it later, and then you lose train of thought where you were. trying to get back an idea what this character is or even where the story's going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, often you're shooting out of sequence as well, so not only do you have to find that character, but you have to find where that character is in the story. And when you're doing screen, unlike theatre, where, you just go in a linear beginning to end kind of story where you know exactly where you are in the story. In screen, you can start at the end and go back to the beginning, have a love scene, then a death scene, and have to know exactly how to play that so it looks like, when the film is edited together, it all makes sense. So, I mean, for me, and I know a lot of actors do this, they kind of create a map of where you're at in your story arc. And you can put it you can draw it as a graph, and then mark out where your emotions are at that point, whether you are calm, whether you are something massive has happened and you're reacting to that, whether you are past that and are now kind of depressed or dealing with whatever the turn of events was, and then when you're coming towards the end, what that looks like. So you literally draw yourself a map of where to start and where to end. That is a way to keep yourself in check, and then with the help of the director, you should know how to pitch it at what point.
Yeah, and do you think self-awareness to yourself is actually beneficial in acting?
Self-awareness is beneficial in all situations, always. So, being self-conscious is another story. So, feeling self-conscious as an actor is a problem. So, because if you're in a scene and you're worried about how you're coming across, you'll never be natural. So, acting is being, because I'm an acting coach as well, and when the best advice you can get is don't make it about yourself. When you're in a scene, as in life, you're actually thinking about what to say to the person who's sitting opposite you. Also, you're always doing something, and so your focus is either on what you're doing, like I'm talking to you now, and I'm pulling hairpins out of my hair because they're annoying me, and I'm also drinking my coffee, and I'm walking around the room. So if you're actually more focused on what you're doing than what you're saying, and so when you're acting, you have to make sure that that's how it comes across as well. Not just thinking about, oh God, what are the words I need to say? What are the words? What if I forget the words? The words have to just be there because you've practiced them a million times. But the actual being in the moment is created by putting your attention on the person that you're speaking to, so make them the star. By making the person that you're speaking to the star, you come across as just being, and that is a good performance in inverted commas, because you're never meant to look like you're performing. You're just meant to look like you're there. You're being in the moment. And so that would be my advice to people who are interested in the acting world. How the best people get it across so well is just they focus on these things outside of them. Yeah, I mean, to go back to what you asked about self-awareness, I think would come across in how you are as a person on set. And that for me means just always being aware that you're just one small cog in a very big machine, and everybody there, from the lighting, sound, makeup, wardrobe, directing teams, they're all doing their jobs very efficiently. And so as an actor, you need to come in and do exactly the same. Just be efficient in that you know your lines, you listen to people, you pay respect, and when you're done, you're done. You can go. There's no need to hang around and gossip and complain about your agent or your this or your that. You're there to do a job like everyone else, and that comes from self-awareness that everybody's doing a job, and there is no hierarchy of importance. I think there's often this misconception that an actor walks onto set and they're more important than people, and they're not. That's I feel very strongly about that.
Yeah, and people need to lead by an example, whether big or small. How do you think actors should lead in terms of an example, like toward the viewers and as well as other actors?
I think actors, leading on from what I said before, it's especially I think actors with more experience should set a good example to young actors to come on with exactly that. You're not more important. Young actors who've had a big break and maybe it's their first job out of acting school, or not, maybe they didn't even go to acting school, to just make it clear in a kind sort of way that it's a privilege to get a role on a show. If the show is a hit, even luckier for you. If it comes with a good income, even more lucky, but understand that it's a privilege. And jobs as an actor, even if you're a star, your career never just goes one sort of smooth way up, in this all improving trajectory. It's always up and down, So when the good times are happening, I think actors need to understand that this is wonderful. Do your job well, and respect everybody around you. And prepare yourself for the fact that it will come to an end, and save your money. Make sure you invest it in somewhere that you can live, so that you never end up that actor who has to bum around on people's couches and has something to eat. And then prepare, always keep busy with something else. That would be my advice as well. Is I've always written and directed. I've been developing a feature film for 5 years, and whenever I had downtime from the acting world, I would just be working on my own project. And so when you get acting work, it's wonderful and it's a bonus and it's great fun. And then when that goes away, you don't need to be devastated and lost. You simply go back to the project that you're making yourself, short films, feature films, web series, writing, making music, whatever that may be, whatever helps you be busy. And so, leading by example, I think, to go back to your question, is a case of always remembering that getting an acting job it's the cherry on top, and you still need to continue with your life and be a respectable, decent person to everyone around you.
Well, go ahead and plug in anything that you wish to promote, anything that you're currently in. Again, any dates, websites, and so forth and so forth.
Okay, cool. Well, carry on watching Riverdale. Penelope Blossom's got a very interesting storyline coming up come Christmas time. So 24 Hours to Live is in theaters, and it will be going to Ultra VOD in a few weeks, so you'll be able to watch it from the comfort of your own home. And it's definitely a lot of fun. It was shot in Cape Town, South Africa, and just sort of really gets the heart rate going. I have just, I'm in the process of finalizing a music video that I'll be directing for an up-and-coming band called The Strange, and that'll be released on YouTube once it's done next year. But yeah, look up The Strange. They've got these fantastic, funky pop rock tunes, and the music video that I'm directing is called Doll of Torture. My feature film, Holy Days, is going into production. It's based on a book by an iconic New Zealand writer called Joy Cowley, and I wrote the screenplay, and will be directing that hopefully in the near future. And then, like I said, I was shadowing Riverdale director Lee Krieger on his new pilot, Deadly Class, which is based on the smash hit graphic novel by the same name, created by Rick Remender, and that is going to be just mind-blowing to watch. It's shot by Tim Ives, who is the DP who shot Stranger Things, so it looks phenomenal, and that hopefully will be picked up from the pilot and go into production next year as well. So lots of exciting things, and I'd be happy to interact with anybody who is interested. You can find me on Instagram under Nat Boltt with 2 T's, and I'm always chatting to fans and supporters and people who enjoy my sense of humor and my mad posts. Will know that I do appreciate the support. And thank you for this interview.
Always. And that is actress Nathalie Boltt.